What's up, everybody? Not too long ago, I made a video about the Legend of Zelda and Christianity, kind of showing the different things in the game that reminded me of Christianity. Well, today I want to kind of show how games in general, to me, they point to a creator. Not long ago, I saw a Ubisoft or Ubisoft, however you want to say it. I saw a video where the programmers, they were talking about how they make their worlds, and they were showing how they had programmed in a day and a night cycle, and they had talked about how they had this dynamic lighting and all these different shadows working. And then they showed how they could highlight certain areas of the map and hit a button, and then it would just, AI would go through and just plant rows of trees and vegetation and all sorts of stuff like that. Then they talked about how they've implemented these rain cycles and these wind cycles in their games. And if I remember right, they said they could easily make these worlds now with the code that they already have up and running, and they can easily implement it into other games. And I think we can kind of see that most of their games kind of have the same model. But you got to admit, most of their games are pretty gorgeous. I'm talking about just the whole world looks amazing. Now, we may get sick of the same old gameplay loop, climbing the towers and checking off a million side missions, but the world we do those things in, they're pretty amazing. But those worlds, they would not be there unless those programmers put that code into the game. Now, can they make some of these worlds now? They sure can, but you have to have a programmer to program the AI. And those worlds and AI, they're made from a source code. It's just a bunch of numbers that come together, and they make up those worlds and that AI. And that code, it can be pretty intense. I got to looking into this. Some of these really big games, they can have lines of code in the millions. And many of the glitches in a game, or the mistakes that happen in a game, they're happening because that code is off somewhere. Then that's not always the case. You could have a console or a computer that's a little underpowered, but a lot of times the mistakes in a game where they can push a patch through, something's off in that code, and that patch is actually fixing that code. And understanding that these games are made by codes and they had to have a programmer or multiple programmers, it kind of helps me to see how in our own world, in our natural world, there has to be a programmer as well. I want to take, for example, our world and our world systems. Those Ubisoft programmers said they have a water cycle and a wind cycle, and they have all that in their games. Well, they're just copying what we already have in the natural world. We got a water cycle in our world where water is evaporated all over the planet. It's coming from lakes, rivers, streams. Most of it's coming from the oceans. And as that water is evaporated, it evaporates and it gathers into these clouds. And then we have wind currents in our atmosphere that carry those clouds all throughout our planet. And then rain falls and it gives life to everything. And then any excess water, it ends back up in our lakes, rivers, streams, and ultimately they go back to the ocean again, and they continue to be recycled. Now, without this water system, everything would die. Our planet would die. There would be no vegetation. That means there would be no food. So just like a game won't have a water system without a programmer putting it in there, it makes common sense to me that our planet wouldn't have that water system either. And something cool about that water system, something I think about sometimes, that water could come out of those clouds. What if all that water just fell at one time? No, it didn't just happen that way. It comes down in little drops. Even when it rains hard, it's coming down in drops. If all that water was released at one time, it would destroy things. It looks like a programmer who knew what they was doing programmed it where it would fall in little drops even when it's raining hard. Well, it won't destroy everything. And besides that water cycle and that wind system, we have a day and a night cycle where, if you've ever looked into it, we're in the perfect position in our solar system. We're not too close to the sun that we burn up. We're not too far away if we freeze. It's as if a programmer has put us in the right place, in the right position. And not only that, but I want you to think about that code. Everything is made up of DNA, and DNA is a specific code. our body is made of a specific code. It's a code who makes us, and that code includes our eye color, how big our earlobes will be, and everything. Now, I won't get into all the chromosomes and how it works, but we get 50% of this code from our mom, and we get the other 50% from our dad. And scientists have found that every living person, they can actually trace back their mother's line to one woman from Eastern Africa, or you could say her maternal line. I don't guess you could say your mother's line, but they're showing from one woman in Eastern Africa. And you can get on the 23andMe website. They talk about that. But and that would go with the Bible. You would have Eve. I think they even call it like the Eve gene. But either way, our body is made up of a code. You are a specific code. Now, if that DNA strand, if that helix gets messed up for some reason or another, do you know we'll have a glitch in our system just like those games? We'll have a genetic mutation. And knowing that we are made of a code and seeing how these programmers code these game worlds and AI and so forth, it really helps me better understand our world. I personally see and believe that we have a programmer, that was God, and he created everything. You could call him the great programmer if you wanted to. And he has instilled this code throughout his creation and in humanity. And in programming terms for humanity, we would almost kind of be like an AI if you think about it into today's terms. And I know it sounds kind of crazy. We're getting kind of matrix thinking, but we would look like an AI, but we're different. We can think and we can feel. And he gives us the ability to choose. He gives us free will. We can choose to live for ourselves. We can live for others. We can live for wickedness. We can live for good. We can choose to hurt ourselves or to hurt others, since we've been programmed with this free will. You know, we can choose to sin, which the Bible teaches is what has brought our world down. That's why we see so many bad things. The Bible teaches that after the first man sins, that sin entered in and our world has fallen. We've seen that perfect DNA code from the first two. They were perfect, but we've seen that code get out of whack as sin has ramped up in our world. You know, we can choose to abuse alcohol, drugs, and these other substances. We can choose to eat things that's not good for us. And did you know many of those things can actually mess up our DNA code, especially in our children? If a mother's drinking or smoking or doing drugs while their child is pregnant, what, you big dummy, while the mother's pregnant, they're more likely to have complications. They're more likely for that code not to align correctly, and their children to have some type of mutations. So you can see the same thing. You know, the glitches in humanity and those glitches in games, it's almost like a copy of what is happening in humanity. And, you know, God allows us, though, to choose how we want to live. And that reminds me, just like many of those games. You know, many of them games, you can choose to be good or evil in it. Now, am I going to do a light playthrough or a dark playthrough? Am I going to be this holy knight or this paladin, or am I going to be some evil scoundrel? And in the natural world, God allows us to choose in his creation the same thing. He even allows us to choose if we're going to believe in him or not. And you know, now according to the Bible, though, we need to get something here. We're more than just AI. We're more than just robots. That free will has changed things. It actually teaches we are his children with his life in us. And it teaches he made us because he wanted us to be part of his family, and he wants to be with us. And he actually, if you really get to looking at it and you understand it, he wants us to trust him more than we trust ourselves, since he is the creator, and he says he will take care of us. But he does not force himself on us. And this is the truth, but many people, they don't choose him. Many don't want to be with him. Many don't want his help. Many will say he's not even real. They'll say that we came from nothing. But I personally can't agree with that. The code here, the DNA structures and all of the systems we have, it's just too precise for it to just magically happen. And just like those game worlds and websites and AI and so forth, whatever, they didn't come into existence just magically. They had to have a programmer code it. Those systems just didn't magically happen like I was talking about earlier. It had to be built. You know, I kind of wish, I heard a guy talk about this once. I wish I could blow up some metal. And according to the Big Bang, it could be a very small quantity of metal. It could actually be no metal at all. But I wish I could blow that up, and then I got a brand new vehicle out of it, a new truck or a new car, and a new car with a perfect exhaust system in it, and coolant system, and electrical system, and so forth. It's got a radio and all that in it. But we know that ain't what happens. You blow something up, you got a hot mess is all you got. You have to have an engineer that has went in there and built that exhaust system to work with that vehicle. They built a coolant system to keep it cool. They built the electronics all through it, and so forth. So the Big Bang exploding from nothing and making everything from nothing, it really, to me, it goes against that code and all the natural order that we have, unless there was a programmer behind the Big Bang piecing everything together as it was coming into fruition, however you want to say it. And what's wild, if you'll listen to a little Bible talk for just a minute, is that so many get to thinking they're greater than the Creator. You know, that's what sin basically is. It's pride. One of God's creations, Satan, according to the Bible, he felt he was better and he was bigger than God. He wanted to be above God. Now, that's really crazy. If he's a created being, how can you think you're greater than the Creator? And of course, he's cast out. That hurt his pride, hurt his feelings. So all he can really do, because he can't really go against the Creator could delete him if he wanted to. All he can really do is deceive God's children. And that's what he's done. And that's what he did. Adam and Eve, they were deceived. And so many people, they don't want to accept there's a Creator, because if they do that, it's not on them anymore. And they kind of listen to Satan. They follow him. And, you know, and that's why so many people believe we came from nothing, because if we came from nothing, then we're the ones in charge until we go back to nothing. But, you know, if you really think about that, there's no hope in that. There's no hope if we just came from nothing and we go back to nothing. No wonder so many people, their mental health is off. They're depressed. They're not happy. They don't have hope in anything good. And what's the point in life if we just go back to nothing? And that's what Satan wants. He wants us to think that stuff. He don't want us to trust in God, because that's really the only way he can get at the Creator, is to get the Creator's creations that the Creator loves to go against him. And so many people are following the footsteps of Satan. Hey, there's no hope there. And they're living for themselves, or they're destroying others to get what they want. Many people's doing so many sinful things or evil things just so they can feel good. And, you know, they never feel good enough. I lived that way for a while. It's like it's never enough, and you got all this baggage on you. You get to wondering, what's the point of all this? But what truly amazes me is that the Bible teaches that the Creator, or the programmer, he became his own program to fix us and redeem us. The Bible teaches God became a human to redeem us from our own pride and our evil deeds. He became our Savior to bring forgiveness to us, because he's also, since he is the programmer, he's also perfect, because he made the laws and the rules that are perfect, and we all go against him because we don't want him, but he wants us so bad. He came to follow his own laws perfectly, so he could bring us out and bring us forgiveness, so he doesn't have to punish us. Since he is a just God, if he didn't punish evil, then he wouldn't be just. He wouldn't be a programmer worth following. But according to the Bible, he became his own program. It blows my mind to save his program, to save us from our own sin, to save us from Satan the liar, and to save us from the second death. It's amazing when you understand it. So you're saying he become the ultimate patch to fix all the problems that we made in the code. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Now I want you to think about this, whether you believe that or not. Most all games, and really entertainment in general, is copying this. You had the battle between good and evil. The Savior saving the one that he loves. Almost everything copies. That's what games is. But we want to be the hero. We want to save people. You know, that's been instilled in our program. Pretty cool stuff when you think about it. Anyways, that's just my thoughts. The video game programming and the code, I can see how we as his creation are just copying what he's already done. Those programmers are copying what the great programmer has already done in the natural world, and we're putting it in the digital world. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. You're welcome to discuss some of this in the comments. I know everybody won't agree with this. I ask you to please keep it friendly, though. We just want to have a friendly discourse on it. I just wanted to share my point of view. If you can't tell, I'm a follower. Jesus is my king, and I love him, and I would love for all of you to follow him too. If you got any more questions about any of this, you're welcome to hit me up. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a great one.